In the United States, more than 70% of the population is affected by the intense winter storm that has already left at least 17 dead. In Brazil, President Jair Bolsonaro pardoned those responsible for the Carandiru massacre, in which 111 inmates were killed in October 1992. And in France, members of the Kurdish Community protest against Friday's attack on a Kurdish cultural center in Paris. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In the United States, more than 70% of the population is currently affected by the severe winter storm Elliott that is affecting the country and has left so far 17 deaths. Several states, including New York, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Georgia, and North Carolina, have declared state of weather emergency in the wake of the storm. The nation's authorities are on alert due to the sharp drop in temperatures, with wind chills as low as -30 degrees Celsius. The situation is worsening, with power outages extending from the state of Texas to Maine, although the north of the country continues to be the most affected. Authorities report that due to the situation, of up to 7,800 flights were canceled on Friday alone, and during Saturday morning the airlines canceled another 2,400 flights. The call from the authorities is to stay indoors and to avoid the highways, which have traffic alerts due to possible snowfalls.
Flash freeze and the ice roads are not going anywhere soon. This is going to be an event that's going to continue through the weekend, and the wind chills are going to be absolutely bone-chilling. That's why this is a life-threatening event. With over 100,000 power outages as we speak, they're trying to be restored as quickly as possible. That's why we brought in utility crews from all over other parts of the country to beef up our forces. We have over 7,000 utility crews out there to put the power back on, but you can understand, a limb comes down, takes the power lines on the ground. It is dangerous even for the utility crews to approach that in blinding snowstorms, so it's not going to be immediate. And that is why we're asking people to be safe at home, but I know there could be some very cold circumstances where people don't have the power they need to keep themselves, keep their refrigerator on, keep the stoves on, so it's going to be dangerous.
We update information in Chile. The National Executive confirmed that the fire that burned more than 500 houses and left 2 dead in Viña del Mar has been contained. The Minister of Public Works, Juan Carlos Garcia, has made the announcement after participating in a meeting of the operating committee in the region. The emergency is still active because there are still hotspots, but the fire is no longer spreading. According to expert sources, it will take more than a day for the flames to be completely extinguished. For his part, the Minister of Social Development, Giorgio Jackson, reported on the actions that continue to attend those affected. The second commander of the Santiago Fire Department, Jorge Guevara, reported that these fires has also been controlled thanks to the support of about 120 volunteers and 11 companies of the Santiago Fire Department. The fire, whose origin has not yet been determined, consumed at least 4 commercial premises in the Santa Filomena and Manson sector. In Brazil, President Jair Bolsonaro pardoned those responsible for the Carandiru massacre occurring in October 1992, in which 111 inmates were killed. The provision is part of the Christmas pardon tradition and benefits 69 surviving officers out of the 74 initially charged for their participation in the event. The presidential decree pardons not only these crimes committed more than 30 years ago, but also other law enforcement officers accused of committing crimes of negligence who have already served at least 1/6 of their sentences. The Carandiru massacre occurred on October 2, 1992, when military police officers entered a prison in Sao Paulo to put an end to riot and kill 111 inmates. To these days, it is considered one of the bloodiest in Brazilian prison history. In Haiti, political movements describe the new agreement signed by Prime Minister Ariel Henry and social organizations as a fraudulent scheme. According to local media, political representatives asserted that the head of government means to perpetrate himself in power illegally. They also point the agreement deepens the social crisis in the country. This week, the Prime Minister signed a pact that would allow him, among other things, to remain in power until February 2024, hold elections next year, and reform the Constitution. On the other hand, the International Committee of the Red Cross declares a red alert in Haiti due to a cholera outbreak in prisons. Several officials of the organizations emphasize on the report of 1,193 confirmed cases, a figure higher than the 13,672 suspected cases of the disease. Given the situation, health representatives urge the population to maintain the corresponding biosecurity measures to face the increase in contagions. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account @teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Peruvian President Dina Boluarte ruled out the possibility of breaking up relations with Mexico following the tensions between the two governments and the expulsion of the Mexican ambassador. The president acknowledged that the rupture of relations with Mexico could generate an international crisis. Boluarte reiterated her conviction that despite the ambassador's expulsion, the peoples of Mexico and Peru will strengthen their historic friendly ties. Mexican authorities reaffirmed their political asylum traditions as part of governmental diplomatic efforts before the political crisis Peru is facing. On Friday, the Mexican government explained about the work of its embassy in Lima during the crisis. During a televised speech, Ambassador Pablo Monroy stated that the nation observed all international human rights norms following international legislation so that the people accused and charged in the Peruvian crisis receive assistance. The official added that the diplomatic representation has been watching over the welfare of the Mexican people in Peru since the crisis began on December 7th.
The embassy's second objective, after the events of December the 7th, is to honor Mexico's long tradition of political asylum for those foreigners who fear for their lives, their physical integrity, or their freedom. One of the most humanistic, peaceful, and noble traditions of Mexican foreign policy.
The Russian government rejected the alleged elaboration of a peace plan by the Ukrainian government. The Ukrainian authorities indicated that they are still working on the details of the proposals for a peaceful solution to the conflict. In a report, President Zelensky's team reviewed a 10-point strategy for peace negotiations. U.S. President Joe Biden received the Ukrainian president on December 21 at the White House, 10 months after the Russian special military operation to evaluate joint strategies. The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, stated that the special military operation in Ukraine is aimed at protecting the population of the Donbas in light of NATO's intentions to expand to the east. See the following report.
According to President Vladimir Putin, Russia's special military operation in Ukraine that began on 24 February last was a necessary action in defense of the population of Donbas.
Circumstances require us to take decisive and immediate action. The Donbas People's Republic have requested assistance from Russia.
Russian president announced a special military operation to free the Donbas region from Kiev-sponsored attacks. In a national statement, the leader of the Eurasian giant claimed that his government's decision was a response to threats from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, as it expands eastward and brings its military infrastructure closer to Russia's borders.
With this decision, we are replying to the fundamental threats that year after year, step by step, rudely and without ceremony, are created by irresponsible politicians in the West regarding our country.
The operation is now in its 10th month with no end in sight, from the joining of 4 eastern Ukrainian territories to Russia with an overwhelming yes, to the intense bombings by Kiev against the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, endangering several countries in the region, as well as the arrival of weapons from the West to further boost the conflict, are some of the elements that have marked the course of the Russian-Ukrainian war confrontation. The death of civilians and terrorist attacks have not been long in coming, and in light of this, the Russian army, using high-precision weapons, has attacked the military and energy infrastructure of the opposition. While in the last days of 2022, Kiev started the most bloody bombing against the city of Donetsk. But in addition to the endless conflict, there is another battle of no lesser importance, the economic one, where Moscow is currently the most affected country in the world with more than 10,000 financial actions against it. Something that has become a boomerang effect for the European Union, which is currently dealing with an energy crisis that is putting its citizens on edge.
He who sows wind, as they say, will reap storms. Indeed, the crisis has taken on a global character. It affects everyone. There is no need to harbor illusions. Humanity now has, in fact, 2 paths: either to continue accumulating a burden of problems that will inevitably crush us all, or to try together to find solutions. Even if they are imperfect, they may work, capable of making our world more stable and secure.
The Russian leader has stated that without doubt, it is the impassioned and hegemonic desire of the United States and its allies that controls and directs the world situation.
All this, without exaggeration, is not even a systematic crisis, but a doctrinal one of the neoliberal model of the U.S. world order. They have no ideas of creation and positive development. They simply have nothing to offer the world except to maintain their dominance. I'm convinced that real democracy in a multipolar world implies, above all, the possibility for any nation, any society, any civilization to choose its own path, its own social-political system.
The situation between Russia and Ukraine has moved off the world, including some politicians crossing their fingers for the end of the conflict, although others, especially those linked to Washington, are advocating that Kiev does not negotiate with Moscow.
U.S. President Joe Biden signed the $858 billion annual defense authorization bill into law on Friday after Congress passed the legislation just before the deadline. The National Defense Authorization Act passed the Senate last week with an overwhelming bipartisan majority. In a statement, President Biden said the law provides vital benefits and improves access to justice for military personnel and their families. It also includes critical authorities to support the national defense, foreign affairs, and national security of the country. However, he expressed that there are certain parts of the legislation that concern him, such as the provision that prevents the use of funds assigned to the Department of Defense to transfer Guantanamo Bay detainees into the effective control of certain foreign countries. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In France, Kurdish community members staged protests on Saturday after Friday's attack targeting Kurdish Cultural Center in Paris. Members of the Kurdish community gathered at the Republic Square in Paris to demand justice in the face of Friday's attack that killed 3 Kurds in the French capital. They also demanded that the act be classified as a terrorist act in the context of statements made by the person responsible for the murders, who confirmed to a policeman at the time of his arrest that he had committed the action because he was a racist. The Kurdish community also stated feeling insecure about the situation and hoped that it will be solved as soon as possible. Members of the Russian community in Syria organized a children's theatrical play on the occasion of Christmas season, an event through which they confirmed their wish that this holiday celebration marked the beginning of the end of the crisis that threatens their children's future. A correspondent Hisham Wanus with the story.
With great joy, the children of Russian families living in Syria, together with their Syrian peers enrolled at the Russian Cultural Center in Damascus, gathered to offer the audience a play about the triumph of good against evil this holiday season, a theatrical act that reflects the common challenges faced by both friendly nations and their joint work to overcome them.
Currently, Russia is going through a situation similar to the one in Syria, because we are suffering from sanctions and economic blockade, and we also have the military operation taking place in the border area of our country, which is why we feel closer to the Syrians, and the same as we share the hardships of the war, we are sharing now the joy of this holiday season.
As members of the Russian community in Syria, we share with the Syrians their joys and hardships, because in addition to military support and humanitarian assistance, we developed cultural work for the rapprochement between the cultures of two friendly peoples and try to participate in all activities, including those of the current Christmas season.
The children also perform Russian cultural folk songs and dances, a musical performance that is a part of a wide range of activities carried out by the Russian Cultural Center in Syria, both to achieve cultural integration between the two countries and to help Syrian children overcome the negative impact of the war and the blockade on their lives.
We wish every child to be with their parents this holiday season because, as you know, here in Syria there is a war, and now there is a war in Russia, and what we wish is that every parent go home to their sons and daughters and together light the Christmas tree and celebrate the New Year, and that happiness reign in every home, and that there be no more wars, and that peace reign in every country in the world. Despite the difficult conditions, we are celebrating Christmas because we want to plant joy in the hearts of all children. Because no matter how difficult life may be, we must not fail to cheer the children in making them look to the future with faith as of these holidays.
The children of Syria, despite the difficult situation resulting from the war and the blockade, have the right to celebrate Christmas and to dream of a better new year. The Syrian and Russian children participating in this event hope that in the coming years they will be able to celebrate in an atmosphere of peace that they hope will reign throughout the world.
Hisham Wanus, TeleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
And every December 24th, many celebrate with joy Christmas Eve, a Christian holiday that commemorates the birth of Jesus, who, according to beliefs, came into the world with the purpose of saving humanity. In most parts of the world, people celebrate with family and friends the traditional Christmas dinner with typical dishes of each region. Also in several countries such as Spain, Venezuela, Mexico, Paraguay, and others, mainly Spanish-speaking countries, believers recreate the nativity scene, representing the birth of Jesus. Other regions place a Christmas tree decorated with lights while waiting for Santa Claus' arrival. It is also customary in many countries around the world to celebrate the holiday with the exchange of gifts and food. Only 9 countries in the world do not celebrate Christmas. These are Saudi Arabia, North Korea, Algeria, Iran, Somalia, China, Tajikistan, and Brunei. And we have come to the end of this news program. You can follow us on TeleSUR English, and you can also join us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.